Hello everyone, welcome back to another tournament game. Me versus Maru in the TSL 8. This is in the main tournament. I played against Maru in the TSL 8 European qualifier, where I managed to take him out 3-1. That was when Maru was playing with about 250 ping, and I was playing with 10 ping. Now we're playing on the American server, as this is the real tournament, so the servers need to be fair. And I've done my research. I've prepared well for this series. We'll see if I can do it again. You can see I put 3 probes on my second control group, because I know he loves to do eBay blocks, and that way I don't have to actually go into the main base to select these workers to pull them down. You want to pull 4 workers in total to deal with this, and if you can, you want to kill the SCV, but if you can't kill the SCV, then that's also fine, you just kill the eBay as fast as possible. This is an okay start for me. I'm not feeling particularly bad or anything. The Nexus goes down at a normal timing, 137. It's a little bit later than usual, but it's completely okay. I ideally actually wanted to open up with a Nexus before core, because I prepared a lot of Stargate plays. I have one Robo Opener that I also have prepared, but that's on a specific map. As Glittering Ashes is one of the largest maps in the map pool. Actually, it is the largest map in the map pool. I think Stargate is just very, very good. Stargate's weakness is quick pushes, and it becomes stronger the longer the path of reinforcement is. And as the path of reinforcement on this map is very large, if a Terran attacks, you can always pick off reinforcements. You can kill SCVs for a very long time before having to return home with your Phoenixes. So I decided that I'm still going to stick with my guns. Maru played the day before this series against Classic in the GSL Super Tournament. And there he opened up with 3 racks a bunch of times after eBay block. This was a build that I hadn't seen before, and I was very happy that it got shown to me before my series and not during the series. Sometimes it happens, you know, where you're not entirely sure what your opponent is going to play, but this time I had a pretty decent idea because it was so recent that he played a very important TVP match. I decided, well, he's probably going to do similar type of strategies. Of course, it's also possible he's going to play some factory opener. That's unlikely. So 4 Marines were downstairs at the 3-minute mark. That means he opened up with a reactor first. There's no other way. And I don't see a command center. So once again, this can mean 2 things. This can mean reactor first from a gas first into a very fast factory. So that's going to be 4 to 6 Marines into 2 Hellions. Or it can just be a 3-rex. Either way, I want to delay my gateway and actually get a low ground battery against this. I was also considering leaving 1 adept on the high ground, but I decided against that. And because he already decided what he's doing, I kind of just want to show him that I have a Phoenix. It's more important for me to get the info than for him to not know that I'm building Phoenixes. Now, I see 6 Marines coming here. I'm thinking it might still be cars, and now I know that it isn't cars. I see 3 barracks, and it's kind of what I've expected. I wasn't entirely sure, but the 3 racks from the eBay block is something that he played. Now I want to see where his Marines are going. His Marines went back home, and I can harass him a little bit with my Phoenixes. My plan against 3 racks was to go into a 2-base Phoenix Colossi and just play very conservative StarCraft from there on out. So I get a second gate, a late 3rd base, and I just want to kill as many units as I can with my Phoenix. Whether those are SCVs or Marines, it doesn't really matter. The reason why that is because in the defensive fight against the 3 racks, it's almost completely useless to have Phoenixes, because the moment you have to use those to lift Marines, Phoenixes are likely to get targeted down by those exact same Marines. So you don't actually want to use these Phoenixes. You want to be capable of holding the push without having to use the Phoenixes. And that's why I get a Sentry here, I get an Immortal out, I have a battery, and just trying to pick off lone Marines, trying to pick off basically anything that I can get. Getting another Phoenix here as well. So I'm just kind of looking at this, want to continue warping in units, and continue my worker production as well. I already have a Robo Bay on the way, and I should be starting my first Colossi the moment that Robo Bay finishes up. I also want to continue Phoenix production, because otherwise I'm just going to float money, and I don't want to get extra gateways right now. Gotta make sure you don't get scanned down. He of course saw that something finished out of the Robo, and he doesn't see anything come out, so that can only mean that it's going to be an observer. He almost gets a Phoenix there, but I control quick enough, so he doesn't quite get it, and that's nice. I see him send one Marine over, trying to scout if I'm getting a third base or not. And once I get my first Colossi out, I think it's actually time for me to get my first, to get my third Nexus, because then I can defend it more easily. Pick up another Marine here. I killed like 4 or 5 Marines total. I now am... Oh, there he comes on the mini-map. Doesn't really want to stim, obviously. But also doesn't want to take too much damage. Pick up 2 more Marines. So the actual damage I've been doing has been okay. There's a couple of things I can do at this point. So I know that most likely he's going to get Medevacs soon. I can move out with a single Colossi and with these Phoenixes. That is completely possible to do. But if he has any type of army on the map, I will just die to a counterattack. He'll give up his third base. So I decide to just check around the map, see if I can find any Marines. I know Bian loves hiding Marines. And I didn't actually know if Maru likes hiding Marines as well. And apparently he likes hiding them just to catch my Phoenixes. So he doesn't really want to use them in a run-by, but just to catch my Phoenixes. Trying to figure out where his first 2 Medevacs are. And now I see the Medevac and I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. I'm even considering moving across the map here, and I think I'm going to make a little bit of a fake push with 2 Colossi. I just don't really have, in my mind, the amount of force or the amount of power that I need to really deal an insane amount of damage. But I could have been wrong. Maybe there was something of a timing here. It is possible. It's sometimes just hard to say. He doesn't have that many Marauders, and Marauders are really the counter to the Colossi, while Marines really do suck against Colossi. But maybe I could have just lifted these Marauders with 2 Colossi, an Immortal, and a Guardian Shield, been fine. But I'm not entirely sure. I was afraid he was going to grab my my Observer here, but he wanted to actually just look for my Phoenixes. Doesn't get them. When you play Phoenixes often, it becomes a pretty passive game, I would say. That's exactly what I'm playing here. A very passive game. I do want to try meeting him on the map. So I saw him move out. Now I have 3 Colossi. I'm like, okay, I think I can fight this. I have good vision on the far right side. I see him move out here as well. They can deal a little bit of damage. And I see his first 2 Vikings out. Now, the moment you see Vikings being produced from your opponent, you can be pretty sure that there's either going to be a timing push or that he's going to be playing some very defensive StarCraft 2. So I immediately throw down my second Robo and I want to get into Disruptors. I accidentally built this 4th Colossi. It wasn't really an accident, but I started it. And then I was like, do I really want to cancel it? Because in my mind, I could maybe still go for a push. And looking back at that, I think I was incorrect. I also think that the Twilight Council, or sorry, the Templar Archives here might actually have been a mistake. Because the only thing that Archons are good for is in combination with Zealots for a bit of a timing push. Because Archons later on in the game just get EMP'd to death. So they aren't that useful. You actually much rather have a faster Blink upgrade and more Blink Stalkers, for example. I decided to not go for that, and as a result I now have an army that really wants to fight, and is actually pretty okay at fighting as well. But I can't really attack into him, because my army isn't big enough for that. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird situation here. But as I have good vision on the left side and on the right side, I do feel kind of comfortable moving, or at least semi-moving on the map. Still don't want to move out too far before I get complete vision on that top side as well. So drop into my natural is still something I am fully aware of that could be happening here. And at this point I'm also kind of hesitating. I'm not quite sure what I want to do. Do I want to get a Dark Shrine here, or do I want to go straight into Carriers? And I do throw down the Dark Shrine now. I build a 5th Colossi as well, which, once again, looking back on this, is just a weird thing to do. I don't quite understand why I did it. It also wasn't in my plans. Often when you're mid-series and you start changing your plans, or mid-game, it's not really a good sign. So maybe I wasn't as experienced with this style as I really should have been. But I definitely shouldn't have gone into extra Colossi here. I think I lose that. Yeah. Sucks. Could have picked up both of these Marauders as well. It's a little bit of an army split to make sure he can't do anything. This is pretty tricky because I'm losing some vision, but I'm trying my best to re-establish that vision the entire time as well. My Phoenixes are being pretty darn useless as well, which I'm obviously not that happy with. The Phoenix is an early game investment that hopefully allows you to get some value out of them into the mid game, but if you go into a late game, you basically just wasted 600 gas into those guys, and that's kind of what happened here. I'm already in the territory where I probably kind of want to get rid of these Phoenixes because they're using up army supply that I could be using for units that are actually good, and Phoenixes are not actually that great. So I don't actually want to chase him too far because I don't have complete vision on the left side. And I now see on the minimap that indeed he's going into the left side. And I'm going to lose a robo because I did get caught slightly out of position here. Throw one disruptor hit, it hits big. And another disruptor hit, doesn't hit at all. I think it might have killed a, what do you call it? Disruptor or something like that. So I swapped the two armies as the left side army looked way better of his. So I'm just actually going to go try and chase it. And now I believe I have a bit of a timing because I pushed this one army back already. And that was a pretty big army. So it means there can only be a pretty small army left at this point. I also decided to go straight into Stargate rather than going into Dark Templar here. Because I don't believe I can actually do too much with the Dark Templar with his army movement. There's a scan forward. I see the scan. I know he's going to be pushing in. He's going to take out some of my cannons, but I will be coming back with this army. This is not an army that can chase. It's an army that can defend the spot, though. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be defending at the spot. So I walked into the zone with my zealots to force a reaction out of him. And that's exactly what he did. And at the same time, or like half a second later, I threw my disruptor shot. So I kind of used attention as a resource there, where I walk into the sensor tower vision, his eyes go to the minimap, and I know he's going to be sending units there. And that gives me like maybe a half a second window to throw these disruptors and get some good shots off. That's exactly what I did there. I really want to fight. Ideally, I'm currently fighting, but because he has map control, I can't fight. Many Terrans don't understand this, even many Terrans at the high level. But the most important thing for a Terran to do when TOS has a big army is to keep the army split and on the map. Because if you have a split army on the map, it becomes really difficult for the Protoss player to move across the map and fight. And once the Protoss is on your side of the map, often the games becomes a lot harder. And that's exactly what's kind of happening here. Like now, I don't have enough disruptors yet, which sucks. Like if I had 7, 8 disruptors here, I think I actually might have been capable of doing something. Like some damage onto something. But because I only have 4, I can't actually stay around for too long to fight. My army is getting slightly better. More Stalkers. It also has too many Colossi still though. And Vikings just kind of kill these Colossi, which isn't super useful for me. So I'm just going to take out these Colossi. I think that's actually a good call. Get a couple more of these disruptors. Also, I think I started Storm at this point already. That's a good call if I have, because it helps you defend the outside bases. There's no unit as good at defending a base with cannons as the Templar is, as the Storm does so much. It really does just help an insane amount against every type of run by or any type of unit that your opponent can send in. Now I realize he's trying to move on the map, and I'm not actually ready yet with an army to deal with this whatsoever. So I decided to send in a couple of DTs. I do have DT Blink, but he's kind of catching me in my transition here towards carriers. Trying to snipe one of these. It's not the cleanest micro. Probably should have just used these Stalkers by themselves. 2 Colossi remain. I'm trying to get more carriers out. And I have 7 DTs. Now, you need 9 DTs to 3-shot a planetary. And with 7, you need about 4. And I don't get these swipes. In my head, I actually warped in 9. But in reality, I only warped in 7. So I was 100% sure that that planetary was going to die. And now is about the time I realized that the planetary stays alive. I'm like, that's not ideal, because in that case I can trade a base for a base, and it's not that bad that I lose a base. Like, it still sucks, obviously, and I'd much rather have that base alive, but that's not what happened. Like, I lost it. So, and his base did stay alive. So now it's 4 base versus 5 base. I am transitioning into carrier, but the transition is a little bit slow, so it's not brilliant either. Trying to get some type of information. Just trying to figure out where he's going with his army right now. So maybe I can fight him somehow, like zone him with these disruptors. But once again, the disruptor count is actually kind of small. Now he's moving into a direction which I don't like. He has the possibility to just completely zone me out. I think I should have actually stormed the ramp maybe. But there's too many liberators for me to just walk into that zone. There's a lot of units. I can't really do much anymore. Nuclear launch detected. I hear it very clearly now. While I was in the game... no, I actually did hear it. I just thought that he was gonna put it at this area, the zone. And then I realized he put it on my natural. I didn't think he would do that. I thought it was like a zoning play to take the left side base. But it wasn't a zoning play to take the left side base. It was a play to kill my entire probe line. That's a little bit unfortunate. At this point, I'm pretty sure that I'm dead. But of course, if it's an important game, you're playing against someone that's very good, you always want to try. I mean, there's no penalty in trying a little bit, except the penalty of people disliking you for wasting their time. But then again, yeah, that's life as well. I'm a competitor. I want to try staying in for as long as possible. Gonna go for an all-out attack. I have a couple of carriers. If he doesn't have enough anti-air, maybe I can win it. I think I have 2-1 upgrades as well on the air. But yeah, it's a little bit painful here, this game. I see a ghost move there. I saw the little red dot as well, so I can't move up that area. Hop. Throw that thing. Want to get a couple of extra Templar. But yeah, his unit control is actually ridiculously good. They're actually crazy. Crazy how good his unit control is. Really, I obviously knew it was gonna be good, but it was very, very good. I didn't expect that. I really wonder what his hotkey setup is, because there's not a lot of Terrans that have more than 2 hotkeys. But I think that the way that he controls his units, it feels like Ghost, Viking and Lip are all separated from the main army. So that means he would be using 4 unit hotkeys. I don't really know any Terrans that do that. Most Terrans just have 1 or 2 hotkeys max. Because the way that the Terran army tends to work. I call GG. I lose the game. I quickly check to see what my position was in better times. Kind of look at the army here. Let's see. I think at this point, the main takeaway that I have here is that my position wasn't very bad. That I transitioned into Airtos too slow, even though I knew he was going to be playing very defensively. And that I didn't have enough disruptors. I think these were the main 3 takeaways after that first game. And especially because I hadn't really played a late game like this in over 2-3 months or so. Maybe even longer. I can't actually recall the last time I played against someone that was good in the late game, or that allowed it to go into a late game. I didn't really have a proper plan completely into that, or I was maybe a little bit rusty. I obviously thought of it, but in my mind, the DTs were going to be more useful, or I wanted to go DTs more. So yeah, that's really the main takeaways, and let's just hop into game number 2 straight away. All right, game 2, and this is the map where I had a special build prepared. So I do some nice probes. Look at that, man! They're mining so quick. It's gonna be 13 pylon, 14 gate. This is just in between the 12 and the 14 pylon, as it's 13. You have way better eco than with 12 pylon, and you have a 5 to 6 seconds faster cyber core than you do with 14 pylon. So, especially on small maps, I love playing this build. And I've been doing it to great success. I've shown this build a fair amount in the past, so I am aware that there's a possibility that Maru might know about it, or that he's prepared and play something like high ground CC. Basically, this means is that if they open up with CC on the low ground, that CC on the low ground most likely will never finish. That's really what it kind of leads to in reality with the 13 pylon 14 gate. There's one thing that I kind of underestimated, and that is the eBay block. I didn't really think he would go for it on Berlingrad. I'm not quite sure why I thought he wouldn't go for it on Berlingrad. That was just an oversight when I was making... Sometimes when I make plans, I get too focused on what I am going to be doing rather than what my opponent is going to be doing. And in this case, right now the build is kind of ruined because whenever he plays eBay block, he almost always gets high ground CC as well. So at this point I just know that I see a second depot, which actually really confused me. I wanted to go check to see what he's doing, then I decided against it. I should have checked for a Reaper here or a Marine. I didn't do that, which is a mistake. I assumed it was going to be a Marine because I saw the barracks finishing at 127, so it was a non-gas first barracks. So I was pretty sure that this was a Marine, and I think I lose my probe here to a Reaper. I realized that it wasn't a Marine. I'm obviously pretty upset by that, because this could have been completely prevented. If you check at 146 at the barracks and the Marine doesn't pop out, it means it's a Reaper. And then you can either scout at like 205 or 210 when the Reaper is gone, or you can just send the probe home, so it adds a little bit of mining. This is just super annoying for me, because I now need to defend against a stupid Reaper that I really don't want to defend against. He's also going to be capable of hopping into my main base. Now, this is another thing, whenever I saw him play a Reaper, in my mind, he almost never opened up with Factory. But because there was so many, the sample size of the games that he played with his new eBay blocking style was so small that I hadn't actually figured out all of the responses or all of the follow-ups that he does. But in my mind, when it said Reaper, it was going to be some type of 3-Rex. So I was really preparing for a 3-Rex here with that fast robotics facility. Robo is probably the worst thing you can have against the factory opener. I also was afraid he might open up with Reaper Hellion. And if he would have opened up with Reaper Hellion, the battery in the main base would have been useful. But because he isn't playing that, I decided against it. I think now I realize that I only have 2 guys over there, so I decided to send another one in there. Get an observer out straight away. Walk across the map with an army that can fight. Can fight very well even. Checking if there's any mines on top of the ramp before I walk up there. I think I might have been capable of fighting here for a little bit. If it was 1 adept, 2 stalkers, I would have been capable of doing it for sure. But with 2 adept, 1 stalker, it might have just been a little too hard to stay around for too long. I also went for 4 units pre-warp gate. That means now I get to warp in 2 more units. You have a lot of gateway units with this build order, which is nice. But yeah, you're also playing a robo opener, which is less nice because robo openers genuinely suck a little bit. Unless you're playing against, like I said, 3-Rex openers. And here we go. I see a Marauder. Makes me happy. I'm like, hey, Marauder. That's cool. And I was very sure that there was not going to be concussive shells because no one plays concussive with a 3-Rex. So at this point, I'm 90% sure that this isn't a 3-Rex because he got concussive shells. Didn't micro this perfectly, by the way. I think I could have gotten way more value out of this. But I still got some pretty decent value. Well, actually, I think it might be an even trade. Wasn't great. Anyway, there's also not enough units for it to be a 3-Rex, obviously. So I'm like, okay, this is most likely a 2-Rex. And I still want to delay my 3rd base for a little bit. Usually you get the 3rd base before you get the extra gases. But this time I'm like, no, you know what? I can get the gases before I get my 3rd base. See a bunch of units. Go into his main base with the observer. Try to figure out what he's doing exactly. And I see 2 mines there and a medevac. I'm like, I'm a little bit surprised. I've never seen this exact build order before. This is a new strategy to me completely, which is always cool. And I saw his medevac move towards the top side, so I'm gonna try to catch it. Spreading out some units. He uses a Marine. He's absolute genius. He uses a Marine to try and make sure that the path is clear for his medevac. I also never seen that before. There was a lot of things in this series that I've never seen. I was happy seeing this scan because I was completely out of range of it. Now get a nice shot on that medevac. That's some damage already. It's more damage probably than he wanted there to be on the medevac. And I'm getting pretty fast Colossi as well. So at this point I'm actually starting to feel kind of okay in this game. Usually the hardest phase when playing Robo is this part of the game, but it honestly went quite well. So I'm a happy camper. I get a Fortunate Twilight in the worst 2 positions possible. Nice SimCity planning there. not. It's pretty terrible SimCity planning, to be honest. I keep my 2 Stalkers on the top right, as I want to make sure that he can't go there with his medevac. It's of course a bit silly, he can fly around it, but I'm just hoping he doesn't. I want to get a couple of pylons here as well, so I have good vision around my bases. And I want to make sure that nothing weird is going to be happening, you know, no drops can hit me. Now I see him come in, and I'm just going to move some Stalkers in position and hopefully deal with that later. Battery cannon in the main base, because that's probably my main concern right now, a drop into the main base. I have good vision on that left side, so I can respond with Colossi walking towards the main, but ideally I of course don't want to do that. He scans into my main base. I completely missed these, or maybe I saw it. I didn't see it now, but I already was walking my units there. So this is actually a pretty good trade. I snipe one of these medevacs. At the same time that Stalker gets taken out by a drop on the right side. And I have 3 Colossi out. So overall it's honestly a pretty good setup here for me. I have a really fast third base. I have good eco. I have fast Colossi. And I honestly haven't taken any damage yet. So I'm getting a cannon here as well. I'm feeling good about life currently, my friends. I'm even considering fighting that little army. That might be a bit much, but I was considering it at least. I'm on 6 gas already. I'm actually feeling very good. Okay, now here's his drop. I see it as well. I'm very happy. And I see him target on that probe there. And then he retargets like the absolute legend that he is. And I just didn't think he would retarget. I pulled most of my probes away, and then I saw the target line, and I was like, okay, I'm safe. And then he retargets, which is just silly of me. Like, I didn't underestimate him. I think the level of players that I practice with is too low. And thus I don't expect these things to happen, which of course should be natural. Like, this is just bad habit creation on my part, which is frustrating, but I mean, I can change the EU ladder by myself. Or the level of players I play against. So yeah, that actually cost me about 12 probes or so. That tiny error, or well, tiny error, pretty huge error. Especially because it was just pure laziness. And this time I decide to straight away go into Disruptor. So my Disruptor count starts growing really fast. As you can see, I'm also not really going into this heavy charge composition like I did last time. I'm more really coming in with a big type of army that is good at fighting from a distance. And now that I saw the tanks, I knew that he was most likely going to be very careful, patient, sitting back. So I immediately make the switch into the Stargate. I start my +1 on the cybernetic score. And I'm trying to get a little bit of damage on these buildings. Cancel on his sensor tower. Oh. Want to see if I could get anything done there. See 1 unit. I go up to 8 gas. My vision is pretty good on the map. At least my forward vision. And I have good vision on the left side. The top side isn't brilliant, so I'm trying to improve that a little bit. I want to be sure that I can see as much as possible. And I'm just going to get more cannons. Because while I'm transitioning into carriers, I'm just going to be very weak. I completely forget about the fact that I built a Stargate in my natural, by the way. So I remember thinking 3 Stargates is going to be good. But then I don't actually put the 3rd Stargate into my control group. So I think I built carriers 2 at a time. And I don't realize. Just now I realized. I actually didn't know building it during the game at all. So I'm looking for some damage. I think I kill a Marauder here. 2 Marauders. That's good. 2 Marauders is more than 0 Marauders. Another mistake that I made here is that I didn't have a unit on his 12 o'clock. That way you can block it with like a Zealot or something like that. I do have an army over here, and I'm trying to actually look for some damage. My army, of course, is very small, and I'm floating... Oh, Jesus. That's not a good disrupt shot. And I'm floating a bit of money. You could say, Kevin, your macro is terrible, but I'm actually floating the money because I want to spend all of my gas into... Oh my god, he just... Right, he EMP'd my Nexus, so I couldn't recall. And then he kills this base. That's actually very frustrating. But yeah, I was floating the money so I could get the carriers out. And I'm like, hey, where's my 3rd Stargate? I'm so sure I built a 3rd Stargate. Alright, I didn't. Well, I did, but in my head I didn't. I blink forward into a mine, into another mine, and I don't get any of the medevacs. So it's just a great life. I just love my life at this point. You know, I'm like, oh my god, this is not good. So far the two main mistakes were me losing all the probes and then me losing a fourth base because he went in through an angle that I didn't have covered. So it's just a lack of map vision, really. But on the bright side, I'm getting pretty good upgrades. He's not aware of my switch yet. It's really uncommon for people to switch this quickly into carrier, by the way. It's really not normal. And I only did it because I was familiar with his playstyle from that last game. And I was familiar with his playstyle from the games I watched him in. He likes to stay on 4 base for a very long time. And DTs aren't that useful against it because he just camps really hard. Like, he'll have some army on the map, but that's it. I think while I was tacking into carriers, by the way, I probably just should have stayed at home. I think moving across the map might have been a little bit greedy. But on the other hand, if I had better vision, it also wouldn't have been an issue. So there's multiple ways to fix this issue, and not having vision and going across the map was not a proper way. He's still unaware, as now I have 4 Stargates. Here, you see that Stargate isn't building. It's not in my control group either. God, that's actually really expensive and kind of silly. I'm sad that I didn't do that properly. I'm like, okay, let's see what's over here. I start my charge as I realize I don't have charge. Classic gameplay. Oh, seems a big army there. I'm actually kind of afraid, but you just want to throw some disruptor things at him, so take who cares. I thought he was gonna jump forward there. It's like a typical Maru move, you know, just EMPing everything, then targeting down 6 of your disruptors. That actually would have been pretty Maru. He also saw that I had no disruptor shots available over there when he tries to go in, but then 1 disruptor does become available. He killed 3 disruptors in the little time that he had, but I killed his entire army there. So I'm actually happy because now that allows me to actually start moving across the map. This 5th base is the incorrect location, should be on the left side. But that's just a passing comment. And here comes my big push moment. +2, basically done. I think I have 6 carriers, 5 carriers right now. And 2 more on the way. And I'm looking for an angle to engage. The hardest thing against Terran is often forcing a fight in which all your interceptors are fighting as well. And well, so far this fight's been god-awful. We're having a couple of more stalkers. So I start attacking these rocks with the thought of like, hey, if my interceptors are out, that would be great. But then I realize, well, he's already shooting my interceptors. How about I just start fighting his units from over the rocks? So I blink forward. I kill that. Probably should have killed a second tank. I do that indeed. And now I have a decent amount of disruptors here. I have a decent amount of carriers. And I can just kind of fight this. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going to throw some disruptor balls. Getting pretty decent hits. I have a good count of disruptors alive. I have a decent amount of interceptors. I believe at this point I still have 40-ish interceptors total. And I decide to go around, attack these rocks once again to get the interceptors out. It's a really big advantage. And now I can just start attacking into my opponent. But rather than doing that, I'm gonna rotate again. I think this is a relatively big error here. I am too keen on going into a late game, while I believe that there was an opportunity for me to kill him here. I had 7 carriers. He had 9 Vikings. I checked the replay. I can just count that quick, don't worry. And I had a very good opportunity here to kill him. And I didn't. I failed. I was up about 20, 30 supply. I had way better tech. I had good upgrades on my carriers, but all of that, of course, doesn't matter. Now I'm going to be going into a late game, which is fine because I prepared for that after the last game in my mind, you know? In between the games, I kind of thought, okay, if we go into a late game, how do I want to play? What do I want to play? How exactly do I want to do it? I was looking for my Templar archives there, by the way. I couldn't find it. That's why I was swapping to my bases so fast. Deciding to kill... I think I should have killed all of my Colossi here, but I think I decided to keep 2 alive for a bit at least. Get a bunch of cannons out. Could go in again. As you can see, I'm really lacking vision on his outside bases that he wants to be taking, which makes it hard for me to deny any bases as well, because I don't know if they're being taken or not. That is an issue. I'm continuing carrier production. The way I want to play is I want to get a couple of Templars in a prism so I can hit Vikings with my storms from the prism. And then I just want to get mass carrier, basically. And a mothership eventually, so I can recall and maybe even use it for cloaking sometimes if I really care. But he has so many orbitals that in my mind it's mainly for the recall, the aggressive recall on the other side of the map. So I push into a turret line somewhere, then I recall on the other side, and you know, I have a good time, I laugh at him, call him an idiot, that type of stuff. I see one of his ghosts cloak over here. I'm like, hey, that's interesting. Luckily I already have an observer on the way. Up, 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 up. Come here, ghost man. Up. Get the ghost. Feel good about myself. Clear these rocks. See a little observer over there. Now we have two of these dudes in a prism. Two Templar men. Got a couple of cannons in my main base in case there's some type of weird drop happening soon. I try to go in here, but there's so many liberators. It feels so hard to get any type of grounding into a fight. I don't know, it's very weird. Usually I feel it feels so easy to get into positions that I want to get into, but Maru cares so much about where he's fighting and how he's fighting, and he's super careful about these things. It's very frustrating to deal with. I'm just gonna blink through, particularly a couple of these liberators, while I'm at the same time dealing with this run by that I'm spotting here on the left side. Come here, Mr. Maru. I have a surprise for you. The surprise consists of a massive carrier army. Wants to shoot you in the face. What a great surprise for him. I kept my prism here, by the way, in case he decided to attack. I can storm a couple of times from the prism. Thought it would be cool. Don't need to use it, so that's nice. He gets the observer. It's annoying. And I immediately start rebuilding a couple of observers. Play Disruptor, Templar, Carrier. Probe count is a little bit high though, which means that my army actually isn't that big. And also my vision is very limited. I have no oracles. I see a nuke. I missed my first storm. Well, missed it. I was too slow with it. Trying to look for the cloak ghost. I think I hit it here in the end, but it's not enough. I needed to hit it one more time, but I didn't have the energy. Sad. So that nuke hits big. Now I'm in danger of losing this base. Get a couple of decent storms there off, actually. See a lot of these Vikings very low. I decide to go in right now. I'll be capable of getting a lot of these Vikings. Trying to hit another storm. And yeah, this is... yeah, it's just not good control out of me. Well, first of all, of course, this is on west, which doesn't help. It makes everything look a little bit clunky. But also it's just... usually when you pull this type of move, you do get the storm off. And even though you know you probably shouldn't be getting the storm off, you usually will get the storm off by putting that type of move, because people just don't control their Vikings as well. So it's just everything that I expect to work just doesn't work. It's very frustrating to play against someone that's very good. Especially because I didn't feel like I am playing particularly poor this game or this series. He's just playing very methodical, very systematical StarCraft, and he's just kind of just torching me, it feels like. Mothership now is on the left side of the map, but I don't really have the carrier force anymore to recall with the mothership. I do see him taking that base, and I'm starting to become a little bit afraid, because that's most likely going to be base number 6. That would not be nice for me. I also don't really have any defense on the far right side. A couple of units there. I lost all map vision at this point, as you can see. He has like 7 sensor towers, he has infinite scans. But all of my observers are gone, all of my vision is really gone. Like, I'm not feeling happy. A nuke? I didn't even hear about the nuke. So I think now I turn up my sound a little bit in my headset. I'm like, that's bad. But obviously I did hear it, or well, the sound did play, I just wasn't paying proper attention. No excuses there. He moves forward. And right now my plan is pretty simple. I'm like, hey, well, I didn't actually want to lose that base. But every other base, or well, as long as I was on 5 base in my mind, I would be fine. Because I could max out with a big army and I could lose probes, it would be fine. As long as I can max out with a big army. But now that I'm actually, you know, losing a base here, I felt pretty bad about that. I'll have to admit. He misses a thing. I see him. Hop. Storm him. And get the feedback. And the nuke gets cancelled. This is what I thought he was doing last game as well when he decided to nuke my natural. Thought he wasn't nuking my natural. He never gets freaking hit by storms, by the way, on his on his Viking. It's really stupid how good he is with it. That was pain. Here comes my prism, but it's already half dead. And it died over a cliff, so I couldn't even drop one. I'm gonna be capable of targeting down a lot of these Vikings, but he has so many units, and yeah, he's very good at this game. It's really sad. I get all the Vikings in the end, and then the Liberators show up. They have like, I'm like, oh my god. Didn't even know they were this good against clump carriers. Tap out, lose the game, GG, and yeah, that's actually it. So, yeah, I lose. Yikes. Watch the replay, but we can do that another time. Alright, that's gonna be it for me today. I hope you did enjoy it, even though I lost. If there's any questions, I will be answering them in the comment section down below. If you do have any, I'll check the next few days or so. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, and yeah, almost 75k. That would be cool to have before the end of the year. So yeah, see you then. Bye bye.